Hello, everyone. How's it going? This is Immigration Attorney Moumita. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am here for my weekly Monday Coffee Live, and I hope everyone had a great weekend, and I hope everyone is ready for this coming week. So, I do have some immigration updates for you. As you know, immigration updates never end. There is always something new in the air, some new laws to keep up with. So, thank you for tuning in. I do my best to bring you as much news as I can. And if you enjoy watching me, I hope that you will subscribe to my page or give me a follow on YouTube. And please feel free to share my videos, because every time you share my videos, you not only share important updates and information with a person who might need it, but you also help boost my page so that other people can get access to my words. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. I have a few updates for you right now, and the main thing that I wanted to tell you is, first of all, great news. The furloughs that USCIS had threatened us with, where they had said that they would furlough about 70% of its staff, has been averted. So, which is really great news. I know many of us were nervous about what a furlough might mean. Obviously, 70% furlough of any company is a huge cut, and it would basically bring all the processing of all immigration applications to a standstill, and it would be very bad news. However, what they have said is that because they are not furloughing employees, instead they are going to basically end up taking a little bit more time to process applications. So what does this mean? Again, it just means more delays and more delays, which is never good news. It's never what we want to hear. But friends, what I would say is that I would rather have a delay than have a total shutdown of our immigration system, because if our immigration system shuts down, everyone's in big trouble. It's not just you and me and our friends and family, but there are many businesses that rely on immigrants. Not to mention the personal humanitarian toll it would take for many, spouses and children and family members that are not being able to come here to be with their families. So that's great news. So number one, the furloughs are averted. USCIS is okay for right now, but they have said that in return, in exchange for not furloughing employees, they're going to slow down processes even more. Well, I think most of us are pretty much used to having a slow process with the USCIS, so it remains to be seen exactly how slow they will be. So thank you so much. I'm seeing a lot of people here. Sabrina, thank you. I'm doing my best. I hope to give you more. Thank you, Mohammed. And Being Human, thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. So another really important update for you all. The Form I-765, which is also known as the application for an employment authorization document, as of last week, August 25th, 2020, there is a new I-765 form that you must use if you are applying for a work permit. Whether your work permit is a new application or it's a renewal application, you have to make sure that you use this form. And on this form, there is some new additional evidence, some new questions that they are asking that they never asked before on a work permit application, such as what is your manner of entry? Where did you enter? Did you have a fear of entering the US? There are a few questions that are really specific for asylum applicants, but since this form is used for multiple categories of work authorizations, every single person filling out this form will now have to answer these questions. So please be aware, please make sure you use the correct version of the work permit application, which is the version that was released as of August 25th, okay? And on that note, speaking of asylum, there will be a new asylum application that you will also have to use sometime in October. I don't have the exact date with me in front of me right now, but beginning sometime in October, there will be a new asylum application that everyone will have to use. So these are my main updates for right now. I'm going to go ahead and take some questions. So let's see what Umair is asking. So Umair from YouTube is asking, I would like to know, when will US embassies reopen for passport renewal outside the United States? So Umair, that's a great question. When will the consulates reopen? Everyone wants to know when will they reopen, because without the consulates without them being open, people cannot go for their visa interviews if they're trying to come to the US. But more importantly, if you're a US citizen who's outside the US, you're looking to renew your passport, or you're looking to get a consular report of birth abroad for a child who was just born outside the US, then you can't really get this done if the consulate is not open. So what I would say is, Umair, I can't answer specifically whether your consulate is reopened, but what you should do is every consulate usually has a web page where they have some contact information. So I would send the consulate a request for an appointment through there. And again, always keep in mind that if you have an emergency basis through which that you want to request an application to be done or an interview to be scheduled, use your emergency reason if you can, okay? Okay, so I have another question here from Ayman Fatima, who's asking, is the ASC reusing biometrics for reentry? So I can't answer exactly if they're reusing fingerprints for any particular type of application, but what I can say is that if you have filed something recently with USCIS that is in the same type of category. For example, if you filed a marriage or family-based adjustment to status application, and with your application, you did also file a work permit application, and because the government is taking so long and everything, you now have to apply for a renewal. Well, if you're applying for a renewal, you may not have to give your fingerprints because they're able to reuse those fingerprints because they already have them for that particular case category. But let's say you filed for adjustment of status 10 years ago and you're filing for citizenship right now, then most likely you might have to give new fingerprints, okay? So whether it's reusable or not depends on a few different factors, but what I am seeing, Ayman, is that a lot of my clients have had their applications or have had their fingerprints reused, okay? So good luck with that. So I see a friend here. Hi, Jeff. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in. So I have a question here from Humayun Khan, who's asking, if someone's N400 interview for a nationalization is descheduled, is there a possibility of declining the case? So I think what you're asking, Humayun, is if your interview is canceled or postponed, then does it mean that they're going to decline the case? And I think that's not really the case. Many interviews are being postponed or canceled at this point because of COVID-19. It doesn't have an effect on your case, okay? Just because your interview might be postponed or rescheduled doesn't mean that it has anything to do with the merits of your case, okay? So I hope that answers your question. Okay, so I have a question from Langaba Antonio, who's asking, I have a question for you regarding the EAD. I have already completed my 150 days since August 28th. Does anyone know if I'm eligible to apply for the work permit? So please advise. So Langaba or Antonio, I have not such great news right now. So if you haven't already applied for your first work permit through asylum before August 25th, then unfortunately you're going to have to wait a full 1 year from the time you filed your application. Okay, so this is really bad news, but this is part of the new asylum restrictions that this government is putting forth, which is why it's so important that if you have a U.S. citizen in your life, encourage them to vote, and you know who needs to get out of office, because this government is really trying to shut down, the ability for asylum seekers to even support themselves. It's going to be really tough, Langaba, but I wish you luck. Give us a call if you need help, okay? Okay, so I have a question here from AO Boston, who's asking, can you explain to us how you can file the other form besides I-130 when you're under removal? That is a very complicated question. I can't get into this right now, but if you are in removal proceedings and you need assistance with filing certain applications, please feel free to give me a call. Let me put my number up here briefly. So you can call me at 212-248-7907, and we can discuss your case and figure out what is the best process and best strategy for you, okay? So I hope that helps. Okay, so I have another question here from Mohammed Jamed, who's asking, hi, I finished my interview in March 2020 in Paris, still waiting for my visa. since March, you need help. So Mohammed, what you would have to do at this point is, if they have not issued your visa, you have to look at why. What is the reason? Is your case underneath administrative processing? If not, then most likely your case has been postponed or held up because of COVID-19. If I would suggest contacting the consulate if you can. Try to send a request through the Ask NBC form. And if you have an emergency reason or an expedite reason for your family member overseas that requires you to be there, use that as a reason. Okay. So I hope that helps. And I have another question from Daisy Fuentes. What a great name. Okay, so my application has been approved for my spouse. Do I have to wait till December? Just waiting for appointment. It's been approved since May 28th. So Daisy, I don't have enough information here about what kinds of application. So if it's an application for your spouse, is the application for adjustment of status? Is it for an immigrant visa overseas? If you're, I'm assuming that it might be an I-130 or something to that effect. And you basically just have to make sure that, you give all of your documents to NBC when the NBC case has been created. And also that, you just have to be a little bit patient because, even though some USCIS furloughs have been averted, there are other furloughs that are still in effect for a National Visa Center, which means that everything is taking a little bit longer. Okay, Daisy? So good luck with that. I hope that helps. So I have a case that says, or I have a question from Altaf who's asking, if you have a case in New York and you work in Connecticut, does it matter if you have a case in New York? And will that do anything to my case? So if you're working in Connecticut, but your case is in New York, then most likely your case should not be in New York because you may not be living in New York. So this is a very important matter. If you're in court or if you have filed something with USCIS affirmatively, you really need to make sure that where you live matches where your case is. Because if there's a problem with the jurisdiction of your case, then you might be accused of misrepresentation. The judge might give you a problem. Everything might get delayed even further. So if you're actually, if you're working in Connecticut, I guess I would also ask, where's your family? Where is your family? If your family is in New York and you're coming back to New York the entire time, then technically you're still living in New York. But if you're not, if everyone is in Connecticut, but your case is in New York, then I would say that's a discrepancy and you really need to talk to a lawyer about that, okay? So I hope that helps. Let me talk about another important matter right now. So I-751s, who over here has a 2-year conditional green card? If you can give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment right now, if you have a 2-year conditional green card, are you keeping an eye on your expiration date? So I cannot stress to you, friends, how important it is to make sure that you file your timely application to turn that 2-year green card into a 10-year green card, okay? If you've gotten a green card through marriage and it is only valid for 2 years, please keep your eye on that expiration date, okay? If you do not file your application to turn your card into a 10-year card, which is called the removal of conditions application, then it can have some very serious consequences for you. Okay, so make sure that you know what your filing window is. Your filing window is 90 days before expiration date. So let's say that your 2-year green card expires on December 31st, 2020. Well, you need to make sure that you file between September 31st until December 31st. So whatever that 90-day period is. So, but there are two exceptions to this, okay? If you're going through a divorce, or if you are in a marriage where things are not going well, right? And by that, I mean your spouse is not helping you, your spouse is not treating you well, your spouse is not letting you out of the house, or many different things, or making you feel like you're not a good person, making you feel like you're not worthy of being in the marriage, then you might be eligible to file for a waiver with this application. And if you file with a waiver, then you don't have to worry about that deadline. Okay, so give me a call. This is something that I regularly deal with. Okay, and let me tell you what would happen. Let's say that you and your spouse are going through problems right now, right? And you file that application, but they're not cooperating with you. They won't give you documents. They will not give you anything to show that you actually have tax returns or bank statements or anything else in both of your names. That means that your I-751 will get a request for evidence if you cannot prove if you cannot file your I-751 with enough evidence of your marriage in the first place, then what the government will do is that they'll put you into a special pile where they say this case needs more evidence. And then they will mail you a request for evidence. And if your spouse is still not helping you, or they're not really, they just don't want to be involved at all, then that means you're kind of stuck and you don't have much more evidence to give them. At that point, it's very likely that your I-751 might get denied, okay? And if that happens, that can have some major consequences, because usually when they deny an I-751, they will send your case to ICE so that they can start deportation proceedings against you. So if you have a 2-year green card and you're in that situation where your spouse is not helping you, or maybe you guys have a great marriage, but you have very little evidence, right? There are many people that might have very little evidence. This is a situation where you should really speak to a lawyer, because you don't want to take that chance where they deny the I-751 and then you end up in deportation. Because once you're inside the courts system, it is very hard to get back out. Meaning you can still get your case approved in front of a judge, but it will take a couple of years, okay? So make sure you call me if you need my assistance with this, which is 212-248-7907. This is a case type that I file regularly. I file so many I-751s that are sometimes straightforward, but more often than not, they're very complex and complicated because there's very little evidence. There's bad treatment of the immigrant spouse by the U.S. citizen wife or husband, and we have to be very, very careful about how things are filed. Okay. Oh, well, this case, this is very important. So my wife burnt my marriage evidence. How can I prove these evidence in valid case? So this is great. Abby, first of all, I'm so sorry if your wife burnt your stuff. If you're an immigrant and your spouse is destroying your documents or burning them or hiding them from you, this is actually this is actually abuse. So you really should pay attention. If your spouse is hiding your documents, burning them, tearing them apart, or just not letting you have them, then you really need to speak to a lawyer. In a valid case is a self-petition that you do for a green card. If your spouse has destroyed your marriage evidence, all hope is not lost, okay? You can still file. The standard of evidence is actually a little bit more forgiving in this type of a case, because the government knows that your spouse will be doing these sort of things to you. So what we do in a valid case is we make a very, very detailed statement, an affidavit from the client, who is the immigrant needing a green card, and we provide as much other evidence as we can. There are many ways to find evidence if we do a little bit of searching or we speak to witnesses and things like that. So Abby, all hope is not lost. If you need help in your case, give us a call, 212-248-7907. This case type is another case that we regularly do, okay? And I really believe that when you're an immigrant, it is not always the easiest thing to find a husband or a wife who treats you equally, right? Because you're an immigrant, you may not have as many rights, or you believe you don't have as many rights. So don't take a chance, okay? Okay, this is going to be my last question for today. So I have a question from Blackbird, who's asking, whenever they send your approval marriage, when can you send your green card application? So I think, Blackbird, what your question might be is when you get your marriage certificate, maybe, when can you send your green card application? So as soon as you get your marriage certificate and you have all of your other required evidence, then send in your application. And also, folks, don't forget, the filing fee is going up on October 2nd. If you're trying to file for anything with immigration, make sure you get it done now. Give us a call. Let us help you with it. But especially if you're filing for a green card through marriage and you're here in the United States, please be aware that beginning October 2nd, you have to pay a separate application fee for the work permit and also for the advanced parole application. And together, it's almost an additional $1,000, okay? So don't delay, get your applications in. Okay, so that is it. I'm gonna go ahead and end this broadcast for today. I thank you so much for joining me. Again, please give me a thumbs up, please give me a follow, please share my videos, and also please go ahead and call my office if you need assistance with your case, 212-248-7907. I hope to see you here again next week. Take care.